Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, in last video we have seen something called as nested interfaces. Now in this video we are going to see very important topic of Java 8, okay, and that is nothing but default method interfaces. Prior to Java 8, we had a normal interfaces where we had certain rules to follow, like all the methods of the interfaces has to be an like by default they are public and abstract, right? um, if I want to add a new method inside the interface, then whichever class is implementing the interface, then that all classes has to change their behavior. They have to implement the new method which I'm introducing in the interface, which was the basic, what I can say, idea before Java 8. Now with the Java 8, it has added one new functionality which is a bit different than what we have already thought about the interface and we have already seen about interfaces, and that is nothing but default method interfaces. Okay, now in this video we are going to check it out what actually this concept is all about. So what's the idea behind default interface methods or default method interfaces? Basically, just imagine we had an normal interfaces where we used to have let's set of methods inside, or which are the public and default by default. Okay, and those methods, whenever I want to implement, suppose if I want to implement a particular interface, I have to give implementation for that all methods. That's the rule, that's the thumb rule. Okay, now the problem with the traditional interfaces were, like, suppose if I want to add a new method inside the interface. Now suppose that interface is being, what I can say, implemented by, let's say, 100 classes. Now you have to go to that all 100 classes and you have to implement the new method which you have added in the interface, which is practically, what I can say, very much hectic. Okay, even if you may not have implementation for that method, or whether it is not required for you, but still with a traditional rule you have to give the implementation. Now to avoid that, Java 8 has introduced this particular concept, default interface methods. Now what do you mean by that? Now basically interfaces usually had only abstract classes. Now with this particular concept you can have a concrete method also as a part of an interface. Okay, now this method is having a capability that you can provide a default implementation for it. What do you mean by that? Suppose I have introduced one default method and I have given some implementation. Now I have 100 classes. Okay, now it may possible that among that 100 classes, in 25 classes it is required to provide the implementation for that method. It is a necessary of that class. Okay, and that's why I have introduced the new method. Okay, so what I will be doing, I'm going to override that particular method. Till this it is fine. Now rest of the 75 classes don't require the implementation of it, so they don't have to worry about, or they don't have to actually override anything. Okay, what and there is no what I can say, that my program is also not going to give any error to me because I have not implemented that method. That's not an issue over here. Okay, so basically with this I'm getting a flexibility. Wherever I'm required that particular method, I can provide my own implementation by implementing or overriding that method. Wherever I don't require, I just have to ignore it, and because of this my program still works. Okay, and that's the very important, what I can say, flexibility Java 8 has given us. Okay, so basically the first point you have to remember over here is you can have your own implementation, or I can say it is like pluggable and unpluggable. Okay, whenever I want to have implementation I can plug in, whenever I don't want I will not unplug, I will not plug it. Okay. Second thing is, because of this my code is not going to disturb. Okay, it will be it is having that flexibility that I don't have to modify my code. That is the two advantages it has given us. Okay, so let's move to the slides now. A default method lets you define a default implementation for an interface method. It is also known as extension method because you are going to add it afterwards, or it may possible that you can add it while creating the interface also. The interface could be expanded without breaking existing code. That's what we have talked. Default method was to specify method in an interface that are essentially optional depending on how the interface is used. That is pluggable. Whenever you want, you can use it. Whenever you don't want, don't use it. So how we can declare a method like this? So here the syntax is a bit different. You have to pay more attention over here. So here you have to use a keyword default. Now don't get confused. This is default method implementation. That's why you're using a keyword default. It is different than your default modifier. Okay, it's not the same. So default keyword you have to use that will make this particular method as a default interface method. Then your normal method signature and method body. Okay, so this is the way you can create a default interface method. Now we will see few examples of this and some valid rules which you can use for this particular thing. So let's see examples and the rules which is there for default interface methods. Okay, so here I'm having interface A, which is having a normal method. Okay, abstract, which is by default abstract and public. Okay, so anyone who is handling this particular or implementing this particular interface has to provide implementation for display method. Now here I'm having my default method. So this default method is being created by using keyword default, which is void show, and I have given the message that this is a default method for interface. Then I have a class B and it is implementing A. So as per the rule of an interface, you have to provide implementation for all the methods, but you don't have to give it the implementation for default method as per the new standards. So here I have given implementation for display method, whereas show method it is not required. Okay, that's what I called it as a pluggability. Whenever I want plug, I will use it. Whenever I don't required, I will not use it. So then I have a class C, which is again implementing A interface. Now here I have given implementation for both this display as well as show. So this is what I want to implement this particular method, default method, so I have overridden it. So message which is there over here is this is overridden method of class C and this is default overridden method of C. Okay, now after it is being done, I have created an object for class B and I have called ob.display, which is perfectly fine because display method is overridden over there. But have I actually overridden show method? No, but when still I can able to call it because there is an inheritance relationship. So all the parent method is available to me, correct? So that's why whenever I'm saying ob.show, it will go to the parent and it will give me implementation of this. That means it will show me this is default method of interface. Okay, similar way I have created an object for class C where I have called ob display and ob one.show. Okay, so it will call the overridden methods of class C. Okay, so this is the normal way of how you can, or the basic way of how you can actually use the default method. Okay, so let's try to compile this. This is got compiled. Let's try to run this. So what I'm getting over here, first when I've called show method of B, so this is overridden method of B. Then when I've called ob dot show, so it has called the default method of the interface. And then I have called methods of C, so overridden methods of C has got called over here. Okay, so this is the normal way of having default. Now we will see some combinations of defaults. Okay, so here I'm having another example. Have a look over here. I'm having interface A over here, which is having display method, which is public and abstract by default. Then I'm having default method show. Then I'm having interface B. There are two interfaces in this program. Now it is having its own show method, its own default show method. Okay, now right now everything is fine because two interfaces are totally different. They can have their own default methods. Now the problem arises when you are implementing both such interfaces. So here I'm having class C, which is implementing A as well as B. Now if you remember something called as multiple inheritance, Java won't actually support multiple inheritance in case of classes. Why? If you remember, there was a reason I have given in the video, and that was in inheritance. In inheritance, it is always supported single line of inheritance. That means one property should come only from one parent. That's the rule. Now what will happen in this case? So basically, whenever I'm having such combination, I can override show method. Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, I can override the methods of individual interfaces also. That's not a problem. Now this overridden method is always hiding the parent default methods. Always remember. Okay, so whenever you have such combination, your class overridden method is hiding the parents methods. That's you have to remember. So when I'm writing over here, COB is equal to new C, that is I'm creating an object of C, and when I'm calling display and show, let's check it out what it will call. So display, definitely it will call this is overridden method of C, and when I'm saying show, it always give a preference to the child method which I have overridden. Okay, so let's compile it. It got compiled, and then run it. So just check it out what it is showing you. It has not given you implementation of these two, either parents. It has directly gone to the child and it has given the implementation of it, and that's why you're getting this is the default method of class C. Okay, so this what got printed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to override this, I'm just commenting it. Okay, now I'm having A and B as my parent. Now which show method will come to me? That is the question. So here you can see what you are getting. Error. Correct. So you have to remember one rule. Whenever you are having multiple inheritance or multiple interfaces which is having same method in it, then you have to override the default method. Otherwise you will be getting compile time error. Okay, so always remember it is necessary you to provide implementation for this particular method. Okay, so that is the rule which you have to keep in mind. Let's move to the next program. Yeah. Now in this program, I'm having interface A, which is having default method show. Then I'm having interface B, which is extending A. So now it's basically having hierarchical relationship. I'm having one interface which is being inherited by another interface. So now this particular B is also having its own show method, default show method. Okay, and it is having some implementation over here. So basically the message, if you see for parent, for A interface, it is like this is default method of interface A, and for B this is default method of interface B. Then I have a class C which is implementing A and B. Okay, so now what will happen in this case? I'm having here show, so I can say that I have overridden it. Okay, so basically, as I told you, always it gives the preference to the child. So till now everything is fine. I have overridden it. It is showing this is the default method of a C, and then in another class I have created an object of C and I have called the show. So which show method will get called out? As I told you, it will call basically the child most. So it got compiled, and then you are having output, that is this is a default method of C. So till this everything is fine. Now suppose if I comment this, what will happen? Now here, as per the previous example, this is a bit different. Here you are having hierarchical inheritance. Okay, and in previous you were having two different interfaces which you were using. Now what will happen? If I'm not giving any implementation for show, what do you think? What you will get? Let's check it out whether it will compile or not first. It will compile in this case. This is a special case you have to keep in mind. Now it always go, see, it first check for the child most. In child there is no show method overridden. So it will go to the immediate parent of it. So which is the immediate parent of C? A as well as B, correct? But you know that there is a relationship between A and B also. So I can say that you have to go to B first and then A. So that's why it is shown this is a default method of interface B. Understand? Now, if I want, as I told you, the relationship is like this. First goes to the child, then the parent, and then the grandparents. Correct? So now I have a requirement that I want to call the super method or the default method of a parent also. So now here for this show, the parent most is what? B. So to call the show method of B, how you can use the syntax? B, that is a interface name dot super keyword and then show. This is the new addition in Java 8. Okay. So B dot super dot show, and then you can call the show method. So basically it will first go to show method of a B interface. Okay, and whatever which is there inside it will print and then come back to the child. Now in B I have a parent A, right? So I want to call the show method of A. How I can do that? A dot super dot show. So then one rule you have to follow, the relationship between the enclosing method has to be your immediate parent. Okay, so basically you can call over here only immediate parents method. So let's try to compile it. Just try to run this. So first it has shown me this is the default method of interface A, then this is default method of interface B, and then this is default method of C. So from C I have called for B, and from B I have called A. So first A default method will get called out, then B default method will get called out, and then C default method will get called out. Okay, I hope you understood the rules which you have to follow in case of default interface methods. Okay, I hope you understood this concept. I hope you understood the reason why Java 8 has introduced this particular concept. Okay, do try out these combinations, do try out these programs, do like our videos. Thank you.